Ministers, ambassadors, friends, good morning, Boker Tov. I hope you all had a good rest last night and that you are enjoying our country. If I may ask, who here is visiting Jerusalem for the first time? Oh, so many. So first of all, I'm proud that I have you here with us in Jerusalem, our capital, and of course because we have a very interesting day ahead of us, I don't want you to leave the conference, so that is why we prepared something very special for you tonight to experience and to see our beautiful capital. So, now, friends, the goal we've set before us, enhancing our cooperation in fighting terror, incitement, radicalization, and cyber threats, is extremely, extremely complex, and it's also extremely broad. So I'd like to focus this morning on the two defining characteristics of the new forms of terror that we are facing. Talk about what we've done to counter them, and suggest how we can work together to take our efforts to the next level. The two defining characteristics of the new wave of terror are, as I mentioned yesterday, one, the central role of incitement and radicalization, especially online, and two, the simplicity of the attacks which are carried out by individuals with easily accessible weapons and without the command and control structures of traditional terrorist groups. Or to put it another way, high-tech communications and low-tech operations. Since the start of the wave of lone wolf terror in Israel began September 2015, we've experienced hundreds of serious terror attacks. In the period leading up to the outbreak of these attacks, and especially in the first half year of the terror wave, we were witness to an intense campaign of online and real-world incitement. This incitement, which continues as we speak, has a number of themes. Some are religious, such as the absurd and absolutely false libel that Israel plans to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque. While this libel has no basis in reality, we saw it. It has led young religious Muslims to attack Jews in order, as they see it, to defend Al-Aqsa. Another theme is the glorification of terrorists. Those who've carried out murderous attacks are celebrated as heroes, martyrs, shaheeds, online and in the streets. This incitement also included an intense campaign of delegitimization against the very existence of the State of Israel. And, as you all know, when you delegitimize a country or its culture or its values, you basically legitimize violence against it. We have taken a number of steps to counter this incitement. None of these steps were simple. They not only presented operational challenges, but, as you know, many raise dilemmas that go to the heart of the balance that we all believe that is needed between the right to free speech, for example, and the right to personal safety, between the individual's right to privacy, for example, another example, and the public's right to go about daily life without fear. These questions of balancing between different fundamental rights must be part of our conversation at this forum, because terrorists must not be allowed to take advantage of our freedoms, of our values, to attack our societies. The first step that we took to combat radicalization was to outlaw groups leading the incitement? And again, coming back to the dilemma that I've mentioned. We discovered that groups such as the Northern Branch of the Islamic movement were holding mass rallies to spread the libel that Israel was planning to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and were actually paying young Muslims, men and women, to violently riot at sensitive religious sites, including over the Al-Aqsa Mosque. These rallies and riots led directly to terror attacks. So, by outlawing the Northern Branch of the Islamic movement, we were able to greatly reduce its malicious activity. The second step was to counter incitement online. Extremist organizations today have the ability, as I mentioned yesterday, to crowdsource terror by spreading violent messages to millions at the touch of a button. Of course, most people, regular people, won't carry out an attack after viewing terrorist content. However, the content is spread so widely that there will always be a minority that will. There are often personal or psychological factors that influence which individuals will be radicalized by incitement to carry out attacks. We carried out a groundbreaking study together with the Israeli Prison Service and together with Professor Ganor on the motivation of lone wolf attackers. We found that in a high percentage of cases, the motivation was a mixture of hatred towards Israel, but this wasn't enough alone to launch a terror attack. The mixture between a hatred toward Israel and personal or psychological issues. For example, a young woman whose husband threatened her with divorce, or a teenager boy who felt socially isolated. These issues on their own don't lead someone to go out and murder innocents, but in an atmosphere that glorifies terror and celebrates terrorists, these individuals are often convinced that carrying out a terror attack is their best option. In order to combat online incitement, we set up a special team, a team made up of representatives from the police, from the justice ministry, and the intelligence community. This team uses advanced web intelligence tools and algorithms to identify potential terrorists. This is an extremely complex undertaking. On the one hand, we, as I mentioned, we respect the right of people to express themselves online. On the other, we know for a fact that in many cases, attackers announce their intentions on the internet or used social media to bid their families goodbye before they do what they do. Often, the attacker executes his attack just minutes or hours after writing such a post. Israel's police and intelligence agencies must determine within a very short period of time whether there is a real threat of attack and whether to bring the suspect in for initial questioning. While this is a complex issue, we know that we've foiled over 200 attacks exactly this way, the way I described. I will not repeat my remarks from last night regarding the need for social media companies like Facebook, Twitter, Google, and others to proactively use the same capabilities they use to make money in order to save lives. But as I said last night, this is really one of the key issues which I believe that we should continue to work on together. We must devise the regulations that will require internet companies to be not only fully responsive to our law enforcement, but to proactively remove terrorist content. The World Wide Web must not be the Wild West. The glorification of terrorists as heroes and role models serves as an incentive to terror. We must remove all such incentives and ensure that potential attackers know that carrying out a terror attack has only downsides. Or, to put it bluntly, to make sure they know that they will suffer, not benefit, from murdering innocent civilians. In Israel, one of the most dangerous forms of incitement which we still face is the institutionalized incentive to terror set down in Palestinian Authority law, which requires the payments, listen to this, the payments of monthly salaries to incarcerated terrorists. We call this the pay-to-slay system. The more people you killed and the longer your prison sentence, the higher the salary you or your family will receive from the Palestinian Authority. Of course, we are working with the international community to pressure the Palestinian Authority to cease these payments. Imprisoned terrorists have told us that one of their motivations for carrying out attacks was to receive these payments, which are higher than the average salary in the Palestinian Authority. The United States recently approved the Taylor Force Act, conditioning United States aid on end to salaries to terrorists. This should serve as a model for all countries of working to end incentives to terror anywhere. However, we must further reduce the incentives of potential attackers. The research we carried out pointed to numerous cases where Palestinians were actually looking to get killed or arrested as an escape route from family troubles or economic hardship. It sounds strange, but friends, it is true. I am therefore setting a special committee this week that will examine ways to remove and cancel any and all privileges received by imprisoned terrorists that go beyond the minimum of what international law requires. Anyone considering carrying out a terror attack for nationalistic or religious reasons must know that he will either pay with his life or languish many years in prison. The second defining characteristic is the use of simple weapons and infrastructure. This makes such attacks very difficult to detect ahead of time. We implemented several measures in light of this challenge. One is increasing the number of foot patrol officers in public and sensitive areas and improving, and you will be able to see it when you will walk around in the old city, and improving their preparedness to respond to any scenario. And we even improved their body armor because many times, as you know, the police officers themselves are the target of the terrorists. Of course, we will never have enough officers to assign to every soft target. We are therefore developing cutting-edge smart camera networks that integrate different kinds of cameras, facial recognition, license plate readers, and others, with advanced analytics that can detect suspicious behavior. Turning Jerusalem into a smart city has allowed us to make our capital into one of Israel's safest locations. We are also restoring law and order to neighborhoods that had been neglected for years. Unfortunately, for years, the Israeli police didn't provide appropriate services to Israel's Arab sector, which make up 20% of Israel's population. I am now working to change that. We are investing hundreds of millions in opening new police stations in Israeli Arab villages, including here in the southern part of Jerusalem, and in recruiting Israel's Muslim citizens into the Israeli police. I have appointed Israel's first Arab Muslim deputy commissioner ever to oversee these efforts. We are committed to rebuilding trust between the Israeli police and all of Israel's minorities. The Israeli police, as you all know, it's not only in Israel, police everywhere, must reflect the diverse mosaic of Israeli society. Because when citizens see law enforcement bodies as a positive force in their daily lives and as part of their communities, it is much, much more difficult to incite them to terror or to radicalize them. Friends, I want to put a practical suggestion on the table. In my conversations with a number of you over the last several days, you expressed your desire to see this forum continue to meet in the future and to work on implementing the ideas that we are discussing here. I would like to suggest that we establish two working groups. One on the issue of online radicalization and incitement, and the second one on the protection of soft targets and public spaces. These two working groups will work to advance international cooperation on a practical level in anticipation of a future meeting of this forum. I know that each of us carries the heavy burden of our citizens' security on his or her shoulders. When we go to sleep at night, we worry about a terrorist cell planning an attack. And when we wake up in the morning, we know that it's our responsibility to make sure that our citizens get to work and school safely and return to their families at night. This is a tremendous responsibility. I know there are some who say that terror is here to stay and that democracies are doomed to suffer from these attacks. Friends, they are wrong. If we work together, we can meet these challenges. We can protect our citizens and make our countries safe. We have a busy 2 days ahead of us. I look forward to learning from you and sharing with you what we have learned. We stand ready here in Israel to assist you, our friends and allies, in any way, including in critical areas such as aviation security, as Secretary Nielsen pointed out last night, or cybercrime, or in any other issue. Thank you all again for being here. I look forward to a very, very productive day. Thank you very much.